Hello and welcome to... Welcome to a WoW podcast, obviously, starring... I was doing the intro.
Oh, keep going.
With Taliesin Evitel.
Hey,
Episode
welcome.
number...
4.
I'm trying to... Okay, so here's what I'm trying to do here, right? I'm trying to do like a proper podcast intro, like, you know, because when we play this on like all the podcast listing services, obviously now we're just sitting in our room, like on YouTube, doing it in front of people, and like, you know, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to get it so that Hello and welcome to a WoW podcast, obviously, starring Taliesin and Evitel. Episode number...
4.
It is episode number 4. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the podcast. Hello.
Hi.
Welcome, everyone. It's nice to... Sorry you were waiting there for lots of music. The sad thing is you were waiting, but at least, you know, in YouTube, you're in your house doing your thing, waiting for us to appear on the screen. Oh, there we go. I'm just going to... get rid of that. There we go. But extra apologies to all the people that have been waiting for minutes of music at the beginning of the podcast on Spotify or anything. Evitel just went downstairs. We just started and she just went downstairs.
I did.
She's back up the stairs now. Don't worry. Here she is. What's it like downstairs right now? I wouldn't know.
Well, the painter is having his lunch now, which...
What's he having?
Tesco sandwich, I think, which I am not having because I foolishly placed a delivery order about an hour and a half ago, feeling very optimistic I would have a Subway.
That's why you were late to the podcast. 'Cause you were, sorry, this is all news to me. This is all coming out now. That's why you were late to the podcast, is because you were waiting for your Deliveroo.
No, I wasn't, because it's not going to be here for another half hour. So,
what did you order?
A 6-inch.
Always.
Oh, it's not. Well, yeah, always. It's no longer. Oh, what is it called? They've changed all the names at Subway. I literally had a.
What's in it?
Italian meats.
An Italian 6-incher, as
It's,
always.
no, yeah, well,
Yeah,
truly,
I mean,
yeah. So I actually had to catch myself last time I went there, and I was like, "Where's my whatchamacallits, spicy Italian or whatever?" And she's like, "That's not what it's called
no,
anymore."
you were the old person.
Yeah, yeah.
You were my mum. You were my mum. You were the like. So if anyone has ever worked in like a Starbucks or a coffee shop or like any kind of new style coffee shop, and by new I mean like as in not some kind of old lady cafe that's been there since the 80s or whatever. My mum is that customer who I call the just give me a proper coffee.
Yeah.
Like a customer. She'll go in there and she's like, oh, I don't know if I want a chocky mocky yarty billy bongy. No, just give me a black coffee. Just give me a proper black coffee. And it's like, yes, madam, I haven't even asked what you want yet, but thank you. I will give you a black. So do you mean an Americano? Just give me a proper coffee. Come on. And then it's like, yes, so you mean an Americano then? If that's what it's called, that's what I mean. Yes. Yeah, my mum is that. And it sounds like you're that with Subway now.
No, actually, I'm just the person who they literally changed the name like a week ago. So I was just like, which is it? So anyway, that is,
Do you think
in
that's
theory,
why the
what
order
is
is
supposed to
taking
be
so
coming.
long? Is because
It could be because
she
they're like
said a 6-inch Italian, and we changed the names last week, so I can't possibly imagine what that could possibly be.
Yeah, and it's pouring rain outside. There's no food in the house, so this was like kind of a desperate last attempt at getting something to eat before the podcast. Instead, I will just sit in my coffee.
You seem incredibly happy about it.
Oh yeah, no, the coffee's amazing.
So wait a minute, why don't you just tell the builder to go and get you a Tesco sandwich on his way?
I would never ask the builder to get me a sandwich.
Well, you're asking me to paint your
That
bathroom.
yeah, I'm paying him for that. I'm not paying him to get me a sandwich.
Why don't you just do like my PE teacher used to do back in the day? Killer Evans, back in Bishop Gore School, he'd like go, my surname is Richards, by the way, and he'd go, Richards, congratulations, you have won the competition. What's the competition, sir? The competition is the one you've won. And the prize is you get to go to the co-op and buy me a Snickers bar. Here is 20 pence. And it's like, even back then, I'm pretty old, man, but even back then, a Snickers bar cost more than 20 pence. And yeah, so basically it was child abuse. Killer Evans.
Yeah, pretty grand.
He used to make us get out of the swimming pool when we were swimming, and he used to make us do press-ups while he sprayed us with a cold hose.
That's like kind of homoerotic, but probably
No,
not.
homoerotic would be a warm hose. I guess it made our nipples go all Batman-y, I guess.
I mean, regardless of what it is, it's probably not the right thing to do. So apologies for people watching us on camera today, because the painter is here. I could not quite extract my hairbrush or makeup from the bathroom.
What, he's using all your toiletries?
Yeah,
This is obscene. What a monster.
I know.
This is insane. He comes in here eating our food, like hiding your 6-inch Italian, getting rid of your hairbrush. What's going on here? Do I need to have a word with him? I will. I will. And when I do, I'll be the Welshest that you've ever heard any human being. That's what I do when I speak to builders, especially here, obviously in Swansea, is like I get so Welsh. I become the Welshest man you've ever heard in your life.
It is. It's really embarrassing.
I am tamping right now. Where's my wife's hairbrush butt? Hey, it's not a problem, it's not a problem, just so you knows.
It's
not a problem, right? It's just the old ball and chain. You know what she's like, you know what women's like, hey boys, yeah. So that's what you got to do. That's my talking to builders voice. That's how it works. So that's why you were downstairs, because you were waiting for food.
No, I wasn't actually. I was literally ushering the painter out and trying to extract my stuff from the bathroom. But here we are. What are we talking about today, Tally?
We're talking about World of Warcraft because this is a World of Warcraft podcast, obviously. And you know what? The great thing about World of Warcraft is, and doing a podcast about World of Warcraft is, right? Sometimes it just writes itself. And that's exactly what happens this week, because what else could we possibly talk about apart from Season of Discovery? Let me do an extreme close-up to show the excitement. Season of Discovery! Look how excited I am about it. Your turn, Evie.
Yay!
Season of Discovery! Yeah! Oh man, who could resist? Like, it is the game mode of Classic that has taken Classic and indeed World of Warcraft by storm. I can't get onto Twitter without seeing people talking about how brilliant
Season of Mastery
is.
People are loving it.
I can't chat online without people telling us how brilliant Season of Mastery is. People, Wowhead is all over that shiz, and people are just having a great time. Isn't that brilliant to see?
Yeah, no. Are you people? Are you among the people?
The people don't like to admit that I am people, but sometimes I am, honestly. So what is your opinion on Season Mastery? How's it been going for you? How's your game going?
I haven't touched it at all, and I'm never going to play it. To be quite frank with you, I say never is a bit
professional WoW player.
Never is a bit strong. No, I probably will log into it at some point.
Well, you haven't got long. It's only a season.
Yeah,
it's only a season. It's only a temporary transitory thing.
No, I know.
Don't you want to tank as a warlock? Isn't that something you've always been waiting for?
Maybe if they implement, and this is what I've said before. If they implement this stuff in like retail WoW, then yeah, obviously I'll play it.
But it's funny, isn't it? Like, so I this is a show mostly about, as you can tell by the conversation we had at the beginning of this podcast, it's laser focused, right? Mm-hmm. And it's we like to talk mostly about retail. That's what we play. There's always something to talk about in Classic as well. But I feel like we've become a bit bloated and a bit kind of too broad, if that's the kind of approach we took. Likewise, Grand Theft Auto 3, even though I would wager that I'm actually more excited about Grand Theft Auto 3 than Season of Discovery.
Grand Theft Auto 3.
Six.
Yeah,
I
bet you're
somewhere on my
excited
screen.
for 3.
Yeah, I played Grand Theft Auto 3. It's going 3D. It's like an open world. I feel like it's just going to be really fun. Yeah, no, Grand Theft Auto 6 looks amazing, obviously. And I will have had about 6 seasons of Discovery by the time it releases as well.
It's possible.
But no, I also haven't played Season of Discovery, mostly because I don't dabble with the old Classic much.
No, me neither. I can't quite. It's just such a different game mode, and I love that it exists, and I love that people are having a really good time, and you're getting the tools. Excuse me.
Oh my!
To play in the ways that you want to play, but it's because it's just such a completely different game.
Yeah,
probably not going to play it. So I don't have time for new games.
It's true.
I literally don't have any time for new games.
But something we talked about a lot on stream on Twitch yesterday, because we're not just YouTube stars, we're also internationally renowned Twitch streamers. Something I was talking about with chat on there yesterday was everyone's enjoying Season of Discovery. Would you like something similar in WoW? I guess the question is, and we're going to make a video about this on the main channel, I think, but the question is, what lessons would you like to see retail WoW take from Season of Discovery? What would you do? What would be the lessons? And people in chat are kind of sort of the most common thing that they say is variety in class design, right? And it's a difficult one, because the variety that Season of Discovery is introducing into class design in Classic is by definition incredibly temporary. So I would argue that it's not really the changing up of classes and play styles and what have you that makes Season of Discovery so special, because you could do that in the game at any time.
Sure.
You could add tanking warlocks into retail tomorrow, and everyone would be really happy and everyone would be really pleased, and they'd be like, wow, yeah, great fun. But it would be a permanent change that that's just what WoW is now. I feel like the fun of Season of Discovery is you get to play as a warlock tank, but it's not a fundamental change
Just
to the
for
game
now.
permanently.
Sure.
Yeah, exactly. It is just like a temporary thing. It's like a fun filter that they've put over for a season, right?
Yeah.
And I know the season is coming out in increments, and it's 25, and it's going to go up to a higher kind of item level and things like that. So, you know, the only way you could really replicate that in WoW. And also like the idea that it's understood and it's implied, and you know that you are going to be starting a new character to do this. You have to. They're fresh realms, right? So again, that's not something people do so much on retail. It's something that happens a lot on WoW or on Classic, because you know you might have played a bit of Classic, and then you might have played a bit of BC, and you probably start a new character for that, and then boosted it, and then you probably played a bit of Wrath, and you may or may not have taken your character on, or you may have started a new one. You know, you like at this point, Classic players have started multiple hardcore characters, if that's something that they do as well. So, you know, there's very much a sense with Classic that despite leveling being so much harder and being so much longer, because leveling is so much more part of the Classic experience, I think.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't really have to level in retail. Wow.
Well, exactly.
Like, you don't have to do
you know,
it.
it is seen as like less part of the fun that you have.
Oh yeah, it's
you know?
it's the bit that you get out of the way. Like leveling is almost removed from like story questing as well.
Yeah,
like 'cause
exactly.
you can just like bop dungeons, right? Like they're not, you know. Yeah.
So there's this understanding that when there's a new season in Classic, it'll happen on a new server, which you go into and you start a new character. And in that respect, it's very much more like Diablo or Path of Exile or something. You know, this is the fun thing that's happening this season. And to do it, really, you're starting a new character and you're leveling them. Because like leveling your character through this new fun thing, that's the game now. And that's what it is for this season. And, you know, like, the only way you could really replicate that in retail would be to have new seasonal servers, which, you know, you did fun stuff on, you know, and I'd be really up for that. And
So just fun servers.
yeah, fun servers, but with the idea that it's not your main doing it.
No,
And-
absolutely.
and-
just
and-
like fresh servers.
yeah,
like
exactly.
just completely clean.
And like the
yeah.
like the whole point of these servers and the whole point of the season, like in Season of Discovery, is that you are leveling a new character. And, you know, maybe I'm speaking out of turn, correct me if I'm wrong, people in the chat, but I don't think that retail players would be as up for that as Classic players are. I think it's less you know, people have been playing their main in retail for 20 years a lot of the time. I think it'd be great. I'd love to kind of have a Season of Discovery style server for retail WoW, where you go in and they've just you know, they're just like playing things up, you know. It's just they've mixed it up. It's super fun. You know, I'm coming up with ideas of things you could do on a retail Season of Discovery server, or you know, just a seasonal server. Fun things you could do, and you know, stuff that would. I would have the Season of the Baller.
What's the baller?
The Season of the Baller is where all you can't queue dungeons, and all kind of mobs in the open world are elite level, like, you know, dungeon level mobs.
Right.
So it encourages you to team up with other people in the open world to level up, because basically you need to do that to be able to take down mobs in the world. You know,
Okay.
So like, it's
that.
about, and then what I do is I treat these seasonal servers like basically a kind of a mage tower, where, you know, if you level your character all the way through the seasonal server to max level, and through whatever the fun thing is that season, then you get like a transmog or something like that, or a weapon appearance or something like that.
Sure.
And like, you know, the Season of the Baller is just the first thing I thought of, because I thought what would encourage kind of grouping, and this idea that, oh, the mobs are all like dungeon level mobs, so, you know, you're going to get your ass kicked if you don't kind of team up with people and do that. And I think that's kind of fun. I think that I think yeah, Season of Struggling. No, you see, what you've done there, Jason, is, you know, you've looked at my idea and you've gone, oh, that'll be too hard. I've looked at that idea and gone, no, you're a baller. You're like, I'll struggle. And I'm like, no, you're a baller. I believe in you, Jason. You are the baller. And my season will make you the baller that you deserve to be.
All this kind of just sounds like, you know, like fun private servers, you know, like where
Well, isn't that the whole point of Classic, really?
Yeah, exactly, where you just join a private server where you can jump really high and everywhere, right? Like,
Yeah, totally. And you know, whenever, like, that's the thing, like, because whenever Blizz do introduce a new way of leveling, like, you know, when Chromie Time was introduced, It was like I had every class at max level, but I went back and I leveled some characters because there was a fun new thing to do in leveling, and I wanted to do it. And it was fun, and I really enjoyed it. I didn't need to level a character. I haven't used basically any of those characters since, but I went back and I went through Chromie Time when that was released in Shadowlands, and I experienced it, and it was really fun. And if you had things that mix the game up just temporarily, and I think that temporary thing, the transitory nature of Season of Discovery, is so fun, and it's one of the reasons why you get that sense of discovery back in the way that you don't get with like a new patch in retail. Because when a new patch comes out in retail and it's got new stuff in it, that's stuff like that you have to learn. That's stuff which is like, it's in the game now forever, and you need to learn how to make your way through it. So in the 100 other times that you make your way through it later on with other characters, maybe in years to come, you know what's going on, and you know how it's affecting the game, and you know what kind of like impact that has on you. Whereas Season of Discovery, like, it's transitory. It's like, I don't have to learn any of this.
No.
You know, I actually can just experience it, let it wash over me, because yeah, there's min-maxing to do at max level and stuff like that, and there is a joy in min-maxing, there's a fun in min-maxing, but also, you know, I can just let this be an experience and take it for what it is, because it is transitory. Like, this season will be over in, I guess, a few months or something.
Is that the idea? Have they set how long it's going to be?
I'm not exactly sure, but you know, obviously, like, the most fun part of any of the rollout is the bit where the level goes up for a bit, you know. So there is a new raid to be doing at 25, but that won't last super long, you know. People were dinging 25 after a couple of days and stuff, so I can't imagine it's like it's super long term. But then there is that thing of gotta get, and you know, the runes themselves are kind of more like the Heart of Azeroth than anything else. You know, you get them from questing, and you get them from doing stuff and various different activities. Some of them are tied to rep, you know, some of them are tied to, well, the Warlock tanking one was tied to like a raid drop, and now it's tied to like other things as well. So like, that reminds me a lot of how you used to get the Heart of Azeroth. And I think stuff like that could definitely work in retail. I think that could be super fun, and it might be, and you know, there's a part of me that was like, you know, it already exists in Classic. Do we really need it in retail? It already exists there. If you want to play something like Season of Discovery, go to Classic. But genuinely, I think it could be fun. Like, in retail, you've got the whole retail world, right? You've got so many more different locations and kind of things that you could use and utilize, and things like that. So I don't know, like, you know, they could just do a thing like, there could be a Season of the Mix-Up where, you know, every dungeon has just different bosses in it from different dungeons.
Sure, why not?
And it's just all mixed up and stuff like that. I don't know, just stuff like that could be fun. And we'll see what Season of Discovery kind of evolves into when it, you know, because this won't be the final Season of Discovery that Classic has, for sure.
No,
I'd be surprised if their next season was a Season of Discovery. You know, I'd expect it to be something completely different. But I think the concept of a Season of Discovery will be something that crops up kind of again and again over Classic's lifespan.
Yeah. And presumably Classic is just going to keep catching up to where we are.
Well, I mean, as long as retail keeps releasing an expansion every 2 years, no, we'll always stay exactly the same amount behind.
That's what I mean.
Sort of ahead.
Yeah, that's what I mean. But we'll keep progressing through what we now think of as retail, and the passage of time.
Yeah, and then you know, I guess the next obvious thing would be have like a Burning Crusade Season of Discovery.
Yeah, probably.
Where there's all this, but leveling through Outland, you know, and maybe your character's able to go into Outland straight away and stuff like that. And likewise with a Wrath one and a Kata one, and you know, we'll be on Pandaria by then as well. So yeah, and that's what I think anyway. I genuinely would love to see a Season of Discovery kind of equivalent in retail, but I think like I think the lesson to take from it is the transitory nature of it, the kind of temporary nature of it, the just having fun for the sake of it, and it not being a meaningful kind of permanent change to the game. So like, I don't think the lesson to take is, you know, changing up classes is something we should do in retail, because without having a Season of Discovery to do it in, what you're describing there is you're just talking like permanent changes to a class. Yeah, exactly. which is like we do that all the time anyway, and then it's like, yeah, it's not always the best thing to do. So yeah, I think the lesson is to if you do want to take something from Season of Discovery and put it in retail, I think the lesson is to have just some fun servers where the understanding is that you are starting a character from scratch. The understanding is like they will kind of basically go into maintenance once the season is done, and be able to transfer any characters you level there into your retail kind of server after it's done. And have achievements and cosmetics that you can pick up in the season of discovery for retail that will obviously apply to your retail account and stuff like that. It's a great idea. And it's so awesome to see the community so hyped about it and so engaged with it.
Absolutely. People are loving it.
Yeah, and I'm not jealous because I don't get jealous of Classic. That's kind of weird, but it makes me excited to think about how we could have something like that in retail as well, and I think it'd be great. But most important thing, super glad that Classic people and beyond are having loads of fun with Season of Discovery. I think that's great. Probably still won't do it myself.
No. Well, you've kind of tempted me into doing it now.
Oh,
All this talk of it is.
Would you?
I might dip my toes in.
Yeah. Would you?
Definitely.
Yeah, you would.
The two things that I know nothing about. Yeah,
well, exactly.
Sounds really
you've never
good.
played a Warlock before, so
No, exactly.
your first experience of it would be a Warlock tank. You've never tanked before either.
No, I
I don't see what could possibly go wrong.
No.
So what have you been doing in WoW then, if you haven't been playing Season of Discovery like everyone else?
Just retailing it up. I finally got my 4 set. Yay!
Yes. How did you get your 4 set? You're only doing like one normal raid a week, and by the time you get to normal raid, they're usually like pretty much just done and that.
Well, yeah. I mean, last week I managed to get on and get the last 2 bosses. This week on Tuesday, I managed to get on for Farrak. Like that was it. And yeah, I got some goods. I got a tier piece in my vault, which was nice, and then used my catalyst on some bits and bobs and got my 4 set, which is really good. And I saw that like WoW had posted kind of the like DPS rankings and the most recent ones. Loads of marksmen, like Beast Mastery and Marksman are like 2 and 3 at the minute. It's just everyone just getting their 4 sets and suddenly being like.
So it's a good 4 set then, right?
Yeah, it's great. It's just lots of damage. It's just do more.
As
hit
a hunter,
more,
that's
do more
literally
damage.
all you want.
It's all you can ask for.
Yeah.
Really, as a hunter, like no, like cool utility, no nothing. Literally, just this does
hunter,
more damage.
Famous for not having cool.
Yeah,
utility.
exactly. It's this does more damage, and this maybe happens more in order to do more damage. It's like, oh, thanks, great. Excuse me. So I got myself the 4 set. I was zooming around a little bit yesterday, just like doing some seeds and world quests and stuff, and definitely felt a lack of story quest.
Yeah, you were actually sitting next to me as I was doing some work, and you were just catching up on the reset and stuff. EU, we have reset on a Wednesday, of course, and you were like, "Is there any new story?"
Yeah, because I do have, because I this was technically not my main. For the beginning of Dragonflight.
Oh yeah, you were a Voker till you died.
Yeah,
at
I
the
was a
beginning of this
Voker,
expansion.
and because of that, my map is full of unfinished quests, like main story quests, like shield quests. Like I've done them.
Sorry, just in case. Apologies
stuff.
to everyone listening. Like Evie is clearly very ill, and she's fighting through coughing and illness to be here. Just to be clear, she's hangry and she's ill.
Yeah,
which is
and
my god. Like I'm
my
lucky
lunch
I'm alive.
is sitting on the doorstep.
Oh, is it
in the rain? Yeah. No, it doesn't matter. No. Of course,
I'll go get it.
No,
you
don't,
tell people
no.
that. Is it really there right now?
Yeah, it is. But there's no point in getting it now because I can't eat it now.
No, it doesn't matter. But I can put it in the oven, keep it warm.
Oh, thanks. Yes, put the Subway in the oven. This is great. This is a really great idea. So I actually felt kind of like, oh, I missed just having some story quests to do this week because those are like the glue for me that kind of carry. Like, I think Tally and the Builder have arrived back at the same time. Wow. I can't wait to get my hands on my Subway an hour and a half later. So the minute, the week where you don't get a story drop, it's like, oh wait, is there anything I can do? No, so there's those. I just feel immense guilt for not catching up on my old story quests and not having something that I can procrastinate by doing. So if I don't have like a kind of let's do it now story quest, it's like, well, maybe it's time to go back and do all the ones you missed. Nah, maybe one day. So that's what I've been doing yesterday. I just had kind of a quick catch up, zooming around. Oh no, please don't bring it up here. I just hear crinkling. That's horrible. Oh, wow. Thanks, Tally. Yeah, just put that downstairs to...
You want me to put it downstairs?
What am I going to do with it now?
You can eat it.
I'm not going to eat it now during the podcast.
I'll leave it out here for you.
Yeah. And I'm not a professional. God. Anyway, so yeah, that's what I've been up to. Just doing that. I've got to do some keys. I did not manage to do a key last week, so I need to get back on my key goal. This is like my personal goal is like literally just do keys. Just do them. Just do keys.
Yeah. How many keys have you done this week?
0.
Failing your goals.
Yeah, that's what I just said.
Crazy.
The words I just said. And likewise last week, I also didn't manage to do any last week. So the thing is, keys are hard because I want to do them with Tally. But when you have the two of us doing them together, it's usually at night, which means...
You're taking your life into your own hands,
exactly,
basically.
which means that one child is probably going to wake up at some point. They're really good. They're brilliant. They're amazing. But and when that happens, obviously the healer is not going to leave. So it's
Well,
you know what I mean? Like the healer is not going to drop out.
Against that. Yeah, totally. But I don't know. I think
that's why I just have to start playing tank.
Now you got your full set. They're going to be like, I don't know, man. Evie is pumping so hard right now that I think we could probably do without a healer. So yeah, I don't know. I think it'd be fine. I think it'd be fine. You could do it.
Well, yeah.
The thing is, right? Like I got this WoW is it's at the level we play it at, right? And this is not what we're going to talk about this episode. Okay. Before I moan about this, right? Here's what I want to talk about this episode.
What are we actually talking about in this episode,
I
Tony?
want to talk about the Chris Metzen effect that Dan Olsen kind of hooked us into.
Oh, speaking of keys, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. And the effect that that's having on the game. And I think, Season of Discovery is actually kind of, I don't think that's a Chris Metzen idea, but I think that is kind of feeding into that as well at the moment. And just like a really, really good feeling around WoW, which is cool. And I also want to talk about the When Azeroth is Born video that we put out last weekend. And some of the responses and kind of counter theories and sort
Lots of good discussion
talk about that video. So that's what I want to do. So there's just can't help but notice the really, really great feeling around WoW right now. So before I start talking about that, I just want to complain about how easy at my level WoW is. And we touched on this like last episode, but I'm a ahead of the curve raider. Our guild is an ahead of the curve guild. We get together and we're IRL friends these days, but we all met through the guild. And we often have little meetups and social gatherings, and we play other games on the Discord and stuff. And then we have guilds in Final Fantasy 14, and we play and we have loads of servers in like Valhalla that we play on, and we have like
Valheim.
What did I say?
Valhalla.
Oh, right. I was talking about
Assassin's
Creed Valhalla.
If Valhalla is real, I like to think they're just lots of servers.
So, we got like multiple Valheim servers and stuff like that. And we play a lot of games together. There was a huge Baldur's Gate kind of thread channel spoiler thing when that game came out as well. It's brilliant. So, but in terms of WoW, and obviously lots of people there playing Season of Discovery as well. But in terms of WoW, we get together, and that's it's always the main reason why we know each other is the WoW guild, right? So we get together and we do the heroic raid, and in the past that has taken us about anywhere up to about 3 months to complete the heroic raid. And we'd struggle through, we'd usually do like after the first couple of bosses, we usually like a boss a week and get through, and they would usually take some proper knuckling down all the way up till honestly Zaralek and Aberus and Lassie, and I've been raiding with them since Hellfire Citadel, in WoD, and it was just like so noticeably easier Aberus than any other kind of heroic raid we'd done before.
You guys went through it so quickly.
Yeah, exactly. And usually what we do when a new raid would come out is we go in and do it in normal first, which usually take the first week, because we only raid for like 3 hours twice a week. And, we'd usually do the normal raid first, just get it out of the way. And if we were struggling on any of the heroic bosses, then we would kind of, go into normal again and just for gear and stuff like that. But, we blew through normal in Aberrus in half a night, likewise with Amirjasil as well, and we're on Firak right now. We'll probably kill Firak tonight.
You think so?
I'd be pretty surprised if we didn't.
Wow.
And that's 3 weeks after release, I guess, 4 weeks after release.
Yeah.
Which is nothing at all, considering the amount of time that we put in.
Yeah, and that's quick. And then once you get that, like, you'll be farming it for a bit. And then, like, I remember, like, last time you guys stopped, like, really, really soon after.
Yeah.
People just lost motivation. And
Because people, the fun part is progression, right?
Of course.
We're not Liquid or Method. We don't need to farm that. We don't need to kind of like, do boost runs. We don't need to make billions of gold for the next race to world first by running people through heroic. So yeah, like, once progression's done and we've got everyone who wants to get ahead of the curve, and like that does include some carries in the guild and stuff. And then we used to go on to like glory achievements, which would usually, but honestly, people aren't really up for that anymore either.
No.
So which I do completely understand.
It's fine.
Glory achievements is always one of those things where I'm like, I always like miss one night of them. So I'm never going to get my glory.
You'll never
and so I just resent having to be there for any of them. I'm like, why? I'm just helping for no reason. And me, Evie, I hate helping other people when there's nothing in it for me.
Of course, exactly. And you saying that literally just forgot what I was going to say.
Oh no!
Yeah,
I'm so sorry.
Never mind.
It's the hunger just like eating away at you.
Yeah.
You've just got
always
6-inch Italians on the mind.
Always. Oh, when do I not? But what's the mount for the ahead of the curve this time? It's actually a good one, isn't it?
Oh, is it?
Yeah. Hold on.
Oh, it's probably like the fiery, like it's probably an owl or something, I guess.
What's the head of the curve out this time? Anyway, I remember seeing it and being like, good, great, I'm in. Because I would like, is that, no, yeah, the owl's mythic. What's the head of the curve one?
Amirjasil ahead of the curve mount. Is there an ahead of curve mount?
I thought there was. Might be making that up. I feel like I saw something and I very briefly was like, is it a mount skin? Is it the Firak skin?
Is it Firak?
See, because I thought it was
that's awesome.
See, that's really sick.
It's Firak skin, but it's not the Shadow Flame Firak skin.
No,
it's
it
like
is
the standard fiery Firak.
No, it is the Shadow Flame one.
Oh, it is?
I think it is.
Okay.
And then
oh yeah,
I think so.
No, you're right. You're absolutely right.
And then like the other one is for it's purple. Yeah, it's purple Firak. So that's
wild.
If you're gonna get any like mount or mount skin from Dragonflight, you want the flaming Firak, right? Like you want the purple Shadow Flame Firak. So
yeah, that's cool.
So I might.
That is a very cool one. In fairness,
it's a really good one. I might actually jump in and get that one for that. But yeah, likewise. So even in just our like normal casual raids, people have just been bopping through it. That's never like not what happens. People just bop through it on alts and stuff. And because I show up an hour late, like I get nothing. But because of that, because people are going so fast, people are gonna go ahead and we're gonna start doing some heroics. We're gonna start doing some heroic bosses after normal. So maybe the casual normal raid night is gonna turn into like another like re-energized run of doing heroic.
Oh yeah, maybe. Oh, wow, that would actually be really cool, like a heroic alt run. I could turn up for that. I got characters that might want to come up for that.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, that's obviously I'd leave it to you, but I come when everyone else, all the kids are in bed and stuff like that, and then I see if I could join in. That'd be cool. But yeah, so I know that. And the thing is, it has got easier now. Whether the fights are easier or the tuning is easier, or it's just that it's like so easy to gather all your gear together right now. You know, Catalyst changes this season as well has made getting 4-set like a certainty basically in 2 or 3 weeks. You know, it's kind of like you have to be doing something really, really wrong if you want 4-set to not get it within 3 weeks. It's really
simple. Like just get a few vault slots.
Yeah. And I was super unlucky. Which is
with
my vault, which is why I didn't get it in 2 weeks, but I got it in 3 then, right? And yeah,
do you have 4-set now?
Yeah, I have 4-set. Yeah, I'm bopping it now. My 4-set's amazing. It's so good, and I love it. And thank goodness I've got a whole week's worth out of it before the raids are over. Yeah. And we said this last week as well. I think Blizzard understands this, which is why 4-sets now, very much for most classes, do seem geared towards Mythic Plus rather than Raid, because
definitely.
like they know that's most of the use people are getting out of them, right? You know, so they're not really something that you kind of get together during progression of the raid, and that's the thing that kind of pushes you over the line or whatever. It's like, I mean, yeah, you're gonna get it super quick, and the raid's gonna be over super quick, so enjoy Mythic Plus with your 4-set, right? And it's kind of all built around that, and you know, that's fine. I know it is quite popular for Heroic to be this kind of slightly easier experience, and you know, if it's making the majority of the player base happy, then it's a good thing, right? I'm only speaking, you know, I'm not saying I dislike this so it should change. I'm just kind of pointing out that I guess, you know, there is that thing where it will be quite sad in a way when we kill Firak tonight, because that's progression over for basically a year.
Yeah, that's wild.
You know, and then because Fated is just not the same. It's not the same kind, unless they like, and you know, there's not gonna be another tier raid, so maybe there'll be like a mini raid or something if we're like super duper lucky. Whatever the big secret that Blizzard have been hiding is,
right?
Whatever that is,
the
if
filler
it turns out to be a mini raid, I guess that could get the old gang back together. But you know, there is this thing of I mean, we are staring down the barrel of raid wise, definitely a bit of a content drought for the next year, you know, and that's kind of scary. And with that in mind, and you know, it sounds so stupid to say because Dragonflight has been so amazing and been so full of content, and people always say at this stage, it's like, you know, why don't you just go into Mythic? And we would love to, but you know, it's not a difficulty barrier that stops us going into Mythic, although, you know, I'm sure it is too difficult for us because we're absolute scrubs. But, you know, we would love to go in and try it and do it. But, you know, we raid Heroic partly because of the skill level, but mostly because of the kind of like no stress level. And by no stress, I mean, you know, people can turn up, they can not really know the fights, they can go in, but most importantly, it doesn't matter how many people turn up. Sometimes we have 15 people, sometimes we have 25, and we'd hate to not be at a raid because 15 people turned up, and we'd hate to bench people because 25 people turned up. And then there's that thing of when you get to Heroic, part of the when you get to Mythic, part of the game is like, well, you shouldn't really be playing that spec of your class. You should probably be playing this spec of the class for this fight, right? And that's reasonable in Mythic. I think that's actually part of the fun in Mythic, right? Finding the right and optimal group kind of compositions is part of Mythic, and I think it should be.
It is,
yeah, totally. But what that means is it locks raid groups like us out of Mythic, not through necessarily a skill level, but just from an organizational level, just from a kind of like, well, we've got 25 people, so we don't really want to bench anyone. We don't want to tell people what to play, so I guess it's fuck us, right?
I feel like I mean, I'm sure you've talked about it with the guild and like in Discord, but I feel like maybe there's a chance to organize, you know, maybe why not have the, you know, we've got the super casual normal raids, the core Heroic raids, and why not like a extracurricular like Mythic raid?
Yeah, totally. But then what if only 19 people turn up?
Well,
or what if 22 people turn up?
Well, exactly. It's extracurricular, but it just requires like a bit of a disclaimer being like, hey, we're going to be more strict about what we play. We're going to strategize about who plays what spec, who we, you know, be open to being benched or just not used in one raid. Like if that happens, keep watching the raid and let's like stay in Discord, let's chat and like learn from it. I feel like you could be kind of a fun, like I feel like you could keep it more relaxed, you know, there will be, but you just have to have rules in place, right? Like you have,
Yeah, I
like
guess
these
so.
people have to show up. This is how it's going to be. This is what you're probably going to play. Like we're all going to go through our logs, and which I'm sure you all do anyway, all the time.
Yeah,
But,
and
you
that is usually something we do. When we usually go in and kill like the first 3 bosses of Mythic or something
that's
like
pretty
that.
standard,
You
yeah.
know, we quite often do that, and that's fun. But you know, no one wants to like farm the first 3 bosses every week, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, there is that. You know, we will try and do that, I'm sure, particularly in the drought. But you know, it is. We've gone from, and also it's a new change, right? So there's that thing of heroic was plenty for us before. Because it would last like 3 months or whatever, and there wouldn't be that much downtime until the next raid. And suddenly, almost overnight, really, in Dragonflight, it's just not like that anymore. And suddenly we're, you know, and we haven't had a chance to kind of adapt really to what it is now. So there's that thing of like the gameplay mode that we like and that we've built our raid team around has become much easier, and that's kind of left us in the lurch a little bit. We just don't really know what to do with it. And yeah, it's not just a case of, well, do the next highest difficulty. Like that is the case if you're going from normal to heroic, because nothing changes apart from the difficulty, you know, like it is literally the same setup. It's still flex. It's still everything else. It's just harder. Mythic isn't just harder. There are very strict requirements on the amount of people that can be in the raid, and that, you know, and the amount of people that the players that the raid is tuned for and things like that. And that does add a whole other level of when you've got a bunch of adults and grown-ups in your raid team, it does affect you, and it does kind of impact your ability to even try it, you know,
Absolutely.
regardless of difficulty.
Yeah, absolutely.
So there's that, and you know, I the reason I started talking about this, I guess, was because we were talking about Mythic Plus, and you know, Mythic Plus is way easier now too, just because of the amount of gear that's getting shoveled at you like the entire time, and how easy it is to get your sets together. I guess that's only going to get more so in the War Within.
Well, with the idea that you get a whole like new tier slot for world content,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And yeah, I was thinking about this too actually, because you know, typically, you know, I would play where I would, you know, I'd try to do a bit of raiding, maybe do some keys, but there would be kind of like, there would be a ceiling, there'd be a threshold for me that I could pass if I really wanted to, but just given the level that I was playing at, like I would never go beyond a certain like eye level. I would never go beyond a certain like kind of gear. And basically like if something good drops, like that would be my piece. Like that would be my chest piece, and that would be like my headpiece, and that would kind of be it. And but now what's really fun actually I'm finding is because you're getting loads of gear, like you've got your 4 set now, but now maybe I want to play around like which bits of the 4 set I equip, or like which slot goes where, and then you've got like all the other you know, just like loads of other gear and stuff dropping. So just literally jumping on like Ask Mr. Robot and simming and then finding out what's good. Like I know that's the correct way to play WoW, right? Is to always be like, you know, simming your stuff, but a lot of people don't necessarily. But I feel like because of the sheer amount of gear that drops now, and the kind of the decrease, it's kind of like a generalized like world feels like a decrease in difficulty, like difficulty across the raids, difficulty across acquiring gear, difficulty across keys. So like making stuff more accessible just means that now I can play the game slightly differently to how I would used to, i.e. using Ask Mr. Robot and like playing around with sets more. And all that does for me is, or someone like me or someone in a similar situation, is just free them up to be like, well, maybe I'm going to play another spec, or like maybe I am going to take that extra bit of time to play alts, like because now I have like marginally more. I have like an increment more of time that I want to put into the game, and now I can put it somewhere else.
Do you know that's like my favorite thing about being a healer is that I don't have to touch sims at all.
Really?
Yeah, like I love not simming stuff.
Wait, what? So
I know you'd have thought I would be really into that stuff, right?
Hold on,
you'd
have
thought,
to.
Like, I bet you'd have thought like Taliesin. If I know Taliesin, and I do, that dude lives for Sims and stuff, right? And you're
Yeah.
right. I feel like I should on paper.
You're not a spreadsheet user, but
Well,
you're
not-
like,
no,
I
'cause,
feel
well,
like you're an aspirational
you
spreadsheet
can't
user.
really
Like
sim-
you're a, you know,
you can't really
you like
sim,
the idea,
like,
but you won't do it.
healing, like HPS, right? Maybe more so a little bit on disc because so much of it is linked to damage. You could get a better idea, but basically
Yeah.
you can't sim healing. And gear generally has a slightly, it's generally accepted it has a bit of a lower effect on healers than it does on DPS and tanks anyway, which is why we're always last to get our gear in raid, right? Which is, fair enough, whatever, man. It's not like I even care. Don't even know why you brought that up. Why are you going on about it like all the time? That I don't get any raiding gear because I'm a healer. Like, it doesn't bother me, and you should probably just stop talking about it. Stop bringing it up. It's like, it's not a big deal. But yeah, so like I don't sim stuff, and I love it. I love not simming stuff.
See,
yeah, I would kind of hate that. I think.
I've always liked doing it like just slightly and gently, and it felt like more of an aspirational thing, right? I'd find like my BIS list, and I'd like try to get what I can. And now suddenly it's a lot more achievable, which is great. And I feel like the only roadblock that I have is pugging keys, because that is the one place where people's like attitudes have not like decreased in difficulty. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like generally pugging is it's like some people are usually cool, but still for this kind of like easy keys from whatever, like 10 to like 14, whatever, things that I will probably be doing that are like not actually super easy, but doable. Like it's impossible to get into them because, well, I haven't had time to like just like crank out the lower ones and like work on my rating and stuff. But so that's kind of, so I feel like that's one place where that kind of attitude persists. But kind of going into what you were saying about kind of what Dan Olsen sent over to us a little while ago, the Metzen Effect.
So yeah, Dan Olsen sent us like, it's just in case you didn't know, right? Dan Olsen from Folding Ideas, Foldable Human on YouTube, our favorite YouTuber probably in the world, and kind of our 2 degrees of separation from basically the whole of that awesome YouTube community, like H-Bomb Guy and Sarah Z and people like that, Lindsay Ellis. He was on our live weekly reset roundtable at BlizzCon. We basically convinced him to come to BlizzCon to be in our show, and he was a scholar and a gent and just a lovely human being and everything you would ever want one of your I'm gonna say the word, Evie, I'm gonna say it, one of your heroes to be. Do you know what I mean? Like, in terms of content creation and just like YouTube stuff, he's absolutely one of our heroes. And it's lovely when they just turn out to be really, really nice, isn't it? As well as just like clever and charming and like all of the other things that you want people to be. And now that we're buddies and besties, right? He sends us he sent us this kind of chart, and this is from the first week of Dragonflight.
I was going to say, I'd like to see an updated version of this.
Yeah. So I'm guessing that there are other versions of this post to keep it like updated, right? But the Mythic Plus participation in the first week of season 3 was not as high as in the first week of season 1, as you'd expect, but way, way higher than the equivalent in season 2. Here it is.
There we go.
There it is. Yeah. So that is, we can see it on screen now for the people watching. And in Dan's words, he put this down to the Metzen Effect.
Well,
in the aftermath of that.
Because of the discussion that kind of follows underneath this chart that was posted is a lot of people talking about that specifically, about this, like, you know what, like I feel like I've been invited to come back home or something, and chalking up this drive to just to do keys up to just like the Metzen Effect, right? This call to come back and like,
okay, well look, I'm looking at the week 3 stats now, and they're even more impressive.
Yes.
Okay, so they've stayed incredibly steady since. This is I'm not sure exactly where these figures are from, like IO, I guess. Raider IO. People like putting in logs and stuff like that. So it's a representative figure, but the real number will be higher, obviously.
Yeah, of course.
3,212,947 Mythic Plus runs in the first week of season 1.
Wowza.
Only 2,270,000 runs in the first week of season 2, and you would expect season 3 to be even lower again. Like it's just a natural thing, right? You know, people come back for an expansion, they play a lot in an expansion, and as expansion goes on, you know, there's drop off. Of course there is. And likewise throughout a season, obviously the most participation you're going to get is going to be in the first week. Season 3 was much closer to season 1 in terms of participation than it was season 2. So Raider IO uses the Blizzard API, so this is like a very accurate figure by all accounts. Thank you for clarifying that in chat. But what's really that's remarkable in itself, and that's what Dan sent us. But in the weeks past, up to week 3, which we're in right now, the figures are kind of astounding. Like week 2, season 3 had the highest participation, way more than season 1 or 2, which is absolutely wild. There's a huge drop off in week 2 of season 1. And then it picked up again. It makes you wonder what happened there, actually. I mean, it looks like an anomaly in the figures, if I'm completely honest. But and you know, like season 3 at this point in week 3 is on a level with season 1 in terms of Mythic Plus participation, which is incredible, really. Like it's like really good numbers, and the dungeons are especially good in this season's Mythic Plus. I think
I'm into them. I'm into this like rotation. I think it's pretty cool. And I guess people just weren't really feeling it in season 2, which is understandable. But no, I like this. Seeing this. It's just great. And I feel like there's just an influx of people doing content that maybe they didn't do as much before, doing more keys if you maybe didn't do keys as much before. And I think it all really comes down to that like easier gearing progression and suddenly having like opportunities. And like I said before, like suddenly having a bit more time, like they've made it easier for you, which just opens up routes for playing the game differently or trying out new things. And I think that's really valuable. It just goes to show that people aren't like doing things faster and then leaving. Sure. You know, they're not just like, oh, oops, I did it, I'm done. They're like, I still have more WoW time in me, so I'm going to put it into maybe doing some keys.
But I feel like you could have said that about season 2 as well. Like the gearing was, you know, kind of comparable to how it is now. You know, it is some of that, the fact that Emerald Dream is just a more enjoyable patch and a more enjoyable like world zone than the Zaralet Caverns.
Yes.
Evie.
Yes.
Who could have possibly predicted that being underground isn't actually a fun thing to do? I can't wait until next expansion, by the way.
Yeah, and I actually have to disagree. Like I felt, and maybe because it was all tied together with like kind of the story progression and being in the cave, and like I did not find season 2, the little bit of it that I touched, like nearly as easy or enjoyable. Like I don't, you know, even with like Catalyst stuff, it's different now, right? Like you can like get your old like, you know, Catalyst like set, like if you want. So it's, I don't know, it feels different now, and of course a lot of it like comes down to post BlizzCon hype as well. Like you have to include that in the equation.
So a really good point just brought up in the chat here. I think, you know, the numbers for Mythic Plus participation are brilliant right now, and I think that dip in season 1 and week 2 is because of Christmas. I think that's what explains that dip there. But I would expect a huge dip in Mythic Plus participation in week 4 because, of course, Season of Discovery, right? And everyone's off playing that. So there's that. But I still think it's really, really impressive, that amount of kind of Mythic Plus participation in season 3. It's just, you wouldn't expect it at all, and it's really great to see. And yes, I think some of that is just the fact that Dragonflight is a banger. Zaralek, the least
helps.
appealing like season of the game so far. Emerald Dream, really appealing patch, really appealing world
so
zone.
good. Love it.
Climax of the story, stuff
Really
like
love
that.
it.
It's been really fun just to go and do gardening. I know like the WoW haters and like ex-WoW players have tried to turn it into this meme that, the bloodless kind of Disneyfied WoW. Look, they're all
Yeah.
just farming and doing
They're just
like
planting
picking
flowers.
and stuff now. And it's like, yeah, and it's awesome. Like the whole kind of vibe of the Emerald Dream and going around doing that has been really, really good and really enjoyable. I love going and doing autos and stuff like that. And so there is that, but I genuinely think that some of it, to lead us back into what I want to talk about, I genuinely think that some of that is the Metzen Effect. I think that there is just this surge of good energy around the game right now.
A lot of goodwill around WoW.
Yeah,
at the moment.
exactly. And I think that was started with Dragonflight just being really good, and Dragonflight had the advantage that it was Shadowlands' job to kind of weather the storm of all the controversies and things like that, and of the world situation and stuff as well with the pandemic. So, it was Shadowlands' curse and cross to bear that it had to deal with all that. And, whether that impacted the game or not, I don't know, but the game, wasn't what a lot of people wanted back then as well. So that didn't go down particularly well. So it was this perfect storm of stuff. And so Dragonflight benefits automatically from not being Shadowlands and from it marking kind of coming out the other side of that, I guess, and then with the game being really, really good. Like it's weirdly not controversial, I don't think. And correct me if you think I'm wrong in chat, guys, but it's not controversial in my experience to say that Dragonflight is easily one of the top 3 expansions. I feel like whether people agree with you or not, it's something that they don't argue against, because it's like, okay, I might not agree with you, but I can totally see why you say that, And there's just this kind of acceptance that Dragonflight's just a really, really top draw expansion. Honestly, it's not controversial to call it the best expansion. That would obviously have a lot of people disagreeing.
Sure.
But I probably disagree with myself. But you can say it and people wouldn't call you an idiot. Put it that people would be like, yeah, okay,
which
yeah.
is rare
I get it.
in
It's
the
one of
WoW,
the ones
WoW
that it's
community.
acceptable to list as your favorite.
It could
you
be
can
up
say
there.
Legion, you can say Wrath, you can say Mop, and you can say now you can
funny.
say Dragonflight. Those are
So
the ones
funny.
you're allowed to say, and you're not an idiot.
Yeah, so funny how it's now acceptable to love Pandaria again.
Yeah.
Like we crossed the threshold, because for a while it was like, no. And then for a little bit it was like, you know what? It was actually, and now everyone's like, yeah, it was amazing. It was great.
Yeah.
We've like passed that like X number of years. I mean, I'm with you. Like Legion was the best. Legion was the bomb.
I do you know what? It's that funny thing where like I think that Dragonflight is probably a better expansion
Probably
than Legion.
Yeah, like
but
all
I
in
enjoyed
all.
Legion more.
Yeah, and like the story in Legion, God, we got like the Nightborn, we had Suramar, oh my God, and like the raids and the dungeons. I just, yeah, it's peak.
And I think whatever people think of it right now, and I think most people who are playing it really, really like it. I guess there's a survivor's bias in that, but you know what I'm saying? Like, I think people generally accept whether they're playing it, whether they like it or not, that it's a pretty good expansion. It's a very popular expansion in terms of player kind of vibe and enjoyment of it. But I think it will be remembered, and I think its legacy will be that it will be the expansion where Blizzard got its shit back together, right? And where it came out the other side of some kind of systems and gameplay philosophies that kind of worked in Legion, but then over the course of the next 2 expansions kind of morphed and evolved into something that basically was really dragging the game down.
Yeah,
that people didn't like.
Seeds were planted in Legion.
Yeah,
that were
exactly.
Not good in the end.
Those seeds, they blossomed into beautiful orchids in Legion, but then they were starting to get a bit rancid smelling by Shadowlands a lot of the time.
Yeah.
And Dragonflight came out and pruned it, like planted some all new seeds, just spraying it seed everywhere. Yeah, exactly. And I'm all like, yeah, Dragonflight, la 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 la, give me your seed. And it's, I feel like people are marking the War Within and the World Soul Saga as being the whole new clean slate for WoW and this new start. But I think Dragonflight is that really. And I think Dragonflight will be remembered as that fresh start. Not only because, not least of all, I should say, because I think Dragonflight will remain the new player experience in WoW long after the War Within.
Oh, I think so. Well, at least for the duration of, I think, like the next... whatever the World Soul Saga as it's coming out.
Yeah, I think it just makes sense. You know, like
It does.
Ridicron is going to be a major antagonist in the World Soul Saga. That seems pretty certain. And you know, the events that he set in motion in Dragonflight will be major events throughout the World Soul Saga. That's obvious already. And you know, like you go back to Dragonflight, and you have the quests that teach you how to do dragon riding, which is perfect if you're a new player.
Absolutely,
right? So,
yeah.
and that will remain perfect and good if you're a new player, like in expansions long after the War Within. So, I think throughout the World Soul Saga, definitely, I wouldn't be surprised if Dragonflight remained the new player experience. It seems perfect for that, and because it's kind of contained, and then like you know, we see a Ridicron get released and into the world, and we see him start his plans and stuff with Dragonflight. It just seems to make sense, honestly, and I think I would be perfectly happy with that.
Yeah.
I'd be like really happy with it being the new player experience.
Yeah, it feels like the prequel to the rest of the World Soul Saga.
Yeah,
Right? Like, it's kinda...
You're absolutely right. Kind of like the preamble, even.
Yeah.
Kind of like the prologue.
And like it's not even like a winding up of, it doesn't feel like a wrapping up of previous story. It's like literally just like setting the groundwork, and then everything goes out from there.
Yeah, totally. Speaking of like, you know, obviously I think Mists is uncontrovertibly considered one of the best expansions now. But obviously it wasn't at the time by a lot of people. But have you seen that starting to happen with BFA now as well?
I've
Just
always...
in the whole like reassessment of old expansions and stuff.
It's so funny because like I've always loved BFA. Like BFA is probably going to be like in my top 3 forever, because I have so many good experiences of it that outweigh the bad stuff about it. Like that outweigh, you know, doing the Heart of Azeroth. Even in the beginning, like it was kind of fun, right? And like like, you know, it was like systems bloat to the extreme. But God, like Borealis and Zuldazar and like the whole Jaina quest line and all like the Anduin and Saurfang, like dang, like it's good. It's like it's so good, and the zones were beautiful, and yeah, but it is funny. Yeah, suddenly, I mean, people still, on the most part, like have a bad taste post BFA for kind of understandable reasons. But I mean, nothing matches the like giant thumbs down that everyone gives Shadowlands at this point.
Yeah,
and
I think
like
there's a million different
understandably
things that contribute to that as well.
Oh yeah,
it has been fun seeing the slight reassessment of BFA ever since, you know, and that thing of, you know, people going back to the zones to go to Mythic Plus dungeons and stuff like that, and just being like, oh my god, this is actually amazing. This is like such a vibe. This is so cool. And, you know, going back and watching those Sylvanas and Saurfang cinematics and stuff like that.
Oh my god, they were incredible.
Yeah,
they're
so
you know,
good.
the Brutosaur, getting the Brutosaur,
Yeah.
good memories of that.
And, you know, people are going and doing it for time walking and stuff like that. And it is wild to see that happening, honestly. And when you're separated from it, you appreciate the parts of an expansion that weren't, you know, systems based. You know, because the systems move on in WoW and they change and stuff. So it's the fundamentals that you appreciate when you go back and look at an expansion, and BFA's fundamentals were amazing, like so good.
Yeah.
Dragnossi, thank you for the big cheer, mate.
Incredible.
Thank you for the super chat. That's what they call them on YouTube.
Wowza.
The super chat. We will come back and address that at the towards the end of the podcast. But thank you, I really appreciate it. That's really cool.
Yeah,
Thank you.
it's amazing.
So but now going out of the back of Dragonflight, that does
Out of the
not
what?
sound like I wanted.
The what?
That's not
Going
how
the
it-
where?
That's not how I meant it to come out.
Oh,
Or
he
the
said?
Dragonflight. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Oh,
But no,
no.
I think there is this genuine like and it's been started by Dragonflight. I feel like the quality of Dragonflight and just the good vibes around Dragonflight has started this ball rolling. And then it's like with BlizzCon, Chris Metzen just kind of like scooped that ball up and just turned it into like pure energy, and it grew and it manifested. And I feel like, you know, I've had criticisms of the actual announcement of the World Soul Saga and the War Within and stuff in the roundtable and things like that. But you know, there's no denying that the whole community has been completely energized by Metzen's kind of appearance at BlizzCon, right?
Oh yeah.
And the fact that he was revealing something so big and so kind of ambitious just fits in with like the romantic ideal of him coming back to the company so much. It's like, not only is Chris Metzen back, but how's this for like a ballsy play as well? You know, it's kind of like it helps you to feel like it's not a cynical move. I'm not saying it's not, but it helps you to feel like it's not, because it does certainly seem to be backed up by actions when it comes to like Blizzard as well. It's like, we're going to get Chris Metzen back, and not only that, we're going to back him with like a trilogy in the way that we wouldn't have anyone else.
Exactly. Like we suddenly have the guts to just like come up and say all this stuff, and like I feel like just kind of the confidence, or at least like the visible perceived confidence of like the WoW team has just done such a huge like 180 from
well, we're straight back
sorry, I always do that. Use like 180 from Shadowlands, where there was just a lot of like the community feeling, like sentiment kind of towards WoW and like devs and people online. It was just like really in the pits. It was not good. But you know, starting to come out with these release like, you know, calendars and schedules, like patch cycles, and they like when they first started coming out, people were like, I don't really trust you. Do you know what I mean? It's like, I don't really trust this is going to happen, but cool, you get a little bit of goodwill for showing that you're going to do it. And then they'd release kind of the first one and be like, okay, and then they'd continue just like hitting targets, and it felt like the community sentiment has, and at least in that regard, has changed so much. And that goes kind of like across the board as well. It's just like rebuilding the trust in like in WoW and what the team can do. Yeah. Which they've always been able to do, but just being like also listening, like switched on, responding to feedback. It's just that it feels so good. So you have this like slow growth and like confidence, and then Chris Metzen comes back, and it's just like it's like okay. It's like it feels like it's on track. Yeah. I think, you know, you wouldn't have got such a Chris Metzen effect. That wouldn't have been allowed to happen so much if, say, that announcement had happened at the end of Shadowlands. Oh no, that would have been so bad. People wouldn't have been as trustful. No, people would have been like, you've just brought him in to like patch things up, right? Yeah, you know, and like the fact that Dragonflight has happened and works as like this really strong basis to let something like the Metzen Effect then happen, I think that's really, really important. And like, I think if we'd thrown Metzen in at the end of Shadowlands like that, he'd have sunk with all the rest of the, you know, and there would have been a bump, there would have been like a kind of a rise in excitement and stuff, but it wouldn't have been the same. Yeah, I don't know. I think people would have been like, oh, they're just desperate. Yeah, they're like they're like Dragonflight for sure. Yeah. But I would like to suggest that the Metzen Effect is real and strong, and I'm happy for it. I love to see it. I love to see it in the community. Just great. Like, you know, it's just nicer to play a video game that everyone else is enjoying playing at its most fundamental level. Yeah. It's also nicer to do my job when everyone's enjoying the game. It's great, isn't it? You know, I make less money when everyone's not enjoying the game. You know, we can do some rage videos. We can be like, everyone's an idiot. What are they doing? Oh man, just rake it in, right? But as someone who just enjoys playing video games, I'd always much rather everyone's having a good time. But I would like to suggest that the Metzen Effect is not a cause, but an outcome of something far more important, which I would like to suggest is the Holly Lonsdale effect. Ooh. Okay. So elaborate. I think like the major change that we've seen in WoW coincides directly with Holly Lonsdale being made
incredibly important.
It's Holly Longdale, right?
Holly Longdale. I always call her Lonsdale, and I don't know why.
Yeah.
I'm an idiot. That's why. That's the reason, right? So Holly Longdale is like pretty much the most important person in WoW alongside John Haidt right now. You know, like Ian Hazacos is his game director, but you know, and on a day-to-day has a lot of say in the game, but you know, Longdale and Haidt are the producers. They're the ones that decide what's actually going on, sort of thing. And John Haidt is John Haidt, and he's wonderful, and we all love him, because how could you not? The beautiful little kind of cuddly, wonderful stoner. Isn't he just perfect?
He's the guy.
If we'd been more similar ages and I'd known him in school, I think me and John Haidt would have been really, really good friends. I think we'd have been in a band together, and it would have been the best band. It would have been so good. Me and John Haidt, we'd have had the best band. Ah, God, I'm still thinking about it. But Holly Longdale, I think, has marked like a genuine like reinvigoration in the team, and with an outlook like, you know, it's coincided, and I'm sure it's not all her idea, in the same way that I don't think, you know, the War Within or the World Soul Saga is all Chris Metzen's doing, you know, but he's there for it, and has helped kind of facilitate it in a way. And likewise, Holly Longdale has been there for stuff like you were just saying, the roadmap, which I think is such an low key one of the most important things that Dragonflight has done differently from any other expansion. You know, not just the fact that the content has come thick and fast, but that we've known way in advance that the content was going to come thick and fast. Like, knowing it in advance has made it better. Like, even the exact same incredibly impressive content cadence would not have been as good without the roadmap before it. You know, that like, genuinely improves it. And you know, Holly Longdale has been at the top for that happening and stuff, and just having, I know it sounds so stupid, I know it's so cheap, it's so easy, I am so easy, I know, but seeing Holly come out onto stage at BlizzCon wearing an Alex Straza coat,
it's amazing.
You just need that, man.
Custom Alex Straza coat, which she had commissioned and made, right? Like, yeah, no, and it's lovely. And I mean, she's been doing games for like 18 years, and she was back on EverQuest and EverQuest 2, and this, like, you know, clearly is like a producer and like a game producer, like of the like highest abilities. And it's just I just like her, and I trust her, and I just like seeing someone like that at the helm feels really good.
Yeah, totally. And I feel like she is a major part of what has kind of almost, you know, crystallized into what we would now call the Metzen Effect. But I think it's the Holly Longdale effect. I really do.
I think
see it. You know, she's great, and I trust her. And it's just nice to see someone with a deep love of the game, which I know everyone in the team does, because at this stage there's not many people like Chris Metzen left or whatever. Which, you know, we always kind of, it's often framed as a bad thing, like WoW has lost something, like all these 60 to 70-year-olds who were working on WoW like in the early 2000s, you know, they're 60 and 70 and they don't want to make video games anymore, right? And isn't that a shame? And it is. But, you know, the flip side of that is pretty much everyone who works on WoW these days is someone who played the game and really liked it, and probably, you know, in part became a game dev, or like, you know, an animator or graphic designer, you know, or programmer or whatever, or a designer, because they liked WoW and because they specifically wanted to work on WoW. So now you've got this team, and it's like, yeah, they weren't around in 2004 or whatever. They didn't work on Warcraft 3. They didn't work on Vanilla because they were 12. But, like, you know, they played the game and they went into this business because they wanted to work on this game. And that kind of like love in the team is there, like, you know, writing through a stick of rock, you know, it's incredible. Holly Longdale is like a prime example of that, you know, someone who came to the game and is thrilled to be working for it because she liked it already.
And it's fair, and it's someone's mentioned in chat, like, it's you have these kind of like leadership positions which are essential in so many ways, but like you say, there's just this huge amount of people like working on WoW at the minute who have, you know, and maybe this is just because of like, our engagement with the community and what we're tuning into. But I remember, even during Shadowlands, like starting to see like WoW devs like really kind of showcasing and talking about stuff that they'd made and that they were proud of, and like little bits and bobs, and like, like opening up a bit, sharing that, like, owning it really, which is always a little bit frightening when you do it on the internet, but it just feels like that. And then going to BlizzCon, meeting lots of amazing new devs, like lots of like younger devs, like younger than us, like young folks, like coming into the game with like energy and spirit, but still having still basically having like guidance and the know-how and the kind of like decades of experience from kind of more senior roles. It's cool, and you can never see into that. You don't actually know the workings of any of it, but from the outside, it feels like really, really quite nice.
yeah, and the game feels in safe hands again right now, and Metzen's a part of that, but Longdale's part of that, and the team in general, and you get the sense that they're being allowed to do what they want to do in a way that they weren't necessarily in Shadowlands. I think that's really great. There's been, we've talked about this forever on this channel, but there was really a sense in 10.1 that there was like a reckoning, and I don't think, put it this way, I don't think it's a coincidence that so much of the language that they've used, like literally the characters have used in Dragonflight, it's about stepping out from under the shadow of your predecessors, stepping out from like whatever legacy was left to you, and finding your own way and doing your own thing. Like, I'm not saying it's like a conscious thing, but I don't think it's a coincidence, because there's been so much talk like that. The idea that Ian Hazzagostis said himself in Shadowlands, he's like, we were stuck in this thing of, we inherited the golden goose. And what do you do when you inherit the golden goose? Well, you don't change it. Like, you stick to the things that the person, like, if the person who used to feed the golden goose is still there in the background going, this is how you feed the golden goose, get on with it. That's what you do, right? Of course you do. And there was a realization in Shadowlands, I think, that it's like, no, we can't keep doing that. That's not, it's not working. We have to be game designers and design a game and make the game that we want to make. And we all love WoW. I trust that we're going to want it to be good, and that's the game we're going to make, and that's exactly how Dragonflight turned out. So much of the language in Dragonflight is like stepping out from under shadows and escaping from legacies and stuff like that. And I think that shows.
Pretty meta.
Yeah. And now with Metzen creating a new legacy in the World Soul Saga, which is of course going to culminate in the Last Titan. Who's the Last Titan, Evie?
Who? I don't know.
I'm asking you.
I don't know who the Last Titan is.
Well, who would you guess it is?
Well, it's Azeroth, isn't it?
Well, there you go. You did have an answer.
Well, I know, but is it? Is it really? Does this lead us into our final segment of the show?
Really good
segue.
Can I just say, you're doing extremely well with your illness and your hunger at the moment. I'm going to keep mentioning it's really good.
Wow, thanks, Tally.
I was ill and bunged up on the last episode. I still a bit am, but you're much more than me. And I hope you don't get comments like I got on the last episode of the podcast.
Which were?
In some of the comments, which one today was, your speech impediment is really cringe.
Your speech impediment?
Yeah.
Whose, mine or yours?
Well, mine, obviously, because I was ill in the episode and I was really bunged up. Maybe they thought I had adenoids or something. I don't know. I just had a bunged up nose. Or maybe they were talking about my weak R.
You don't even have a weak R.
I do have a weak R. I went to drama school for 3 years, right?
Okay, but
and one of the top drama schools in the country. And like basically, while everyone else was like acting and having fun, did you have like an obsession in college? Like some weird little thing that you desperately wanted to do or change?
I had many, yeah.
I'm not talking about sexy professors. I'm talking about like a little thing that you were like, just a meaningless thing that you thought you needed to solve or like get better at.
Oh yeah, definitely.
What was it for you?
Probably my nose, probably.
What?
Yeah, I used to hate my nose.
Why?
I used to just be like, I used to think it was just absolutely massive.
Wow.
I mean, it is absolutely massive in a good way.
A physical thing.
Yeah.
Well, no, because with me it was like, okay, I was told I had a weak R. I was actually sat down. My radio teacher really liked me and, gave me a really good report. And when my radio teacher gave me a really good report, like literally the vice head of Bristol Old Vic, like called me into a meeting and sat me down and was like, so I see they've given you a really good report in radio. You need to know that you'll never work in radio. And I was like, oh, really? Why? And they were like, because you've got a weak R. You've got a slightly weak R, and you'll never be able to just be a voice on the screen.
And
somewhere.
I think, and look at you, literally doing a podcast right now as we speak.
That
literally.
mean comment, they saw through it. They saw through my charade. They were like, "What's this speech impediment? Who's this speech impediment talking on this microphone right now?" So maybe that was my ex teacher.
Maybe exactly. He's like, I wonder what Tally's up to right now. Oh, really? Let me give him some feedback.
Yeah, totally.
Some constructive feedback.
But that was my obsession in college. I was like, I need to sort out my weak R, and I trained so hard, and I did like all the exercises and stuff, and I never ever shifted it, and it's got worse since then because I don't bother like doing exercises for it and stuff anymore. Because why should I? I'm a world famous YouTuber.
Yeah, but I've literally never noticed this.
Yeah. Well,
like, what is a good way to like, someone with a weak R is someone like like on Monty Python, right? Like that's like a Michael Palin.
That's a proper lisp, right? But
no. That's like a weak R.
It's like R sound. That's all. It's a slightly W-y, especially when.
But it's not.
Like, when I say words like trash or fresh. Or like if there are,
I'm not.
You're not hearing that?
You gotta,
okay, I'm sure there are people in the chat going
wild
now. I never heard it before,
and you're not saying
flesh again. Yeah,
like you're not going like ooh woo. Like this isn't. Do you know what I mean? Like is it just, so I've never, I know this is one of the things that Tally has gone on about this from day one, and
like I say, it was an obsession of mine. It's not anymore, but like so the vice principal called me in one day and was like, you'll never work in radio because you got a weak R. And then my dance teacher called me and said, you'll never be a dancer because you got a weak ass. So
that's quite funny.
No one ever claimed I had a weak ass at drama school.
No,
that was never talked about. So yeah, but I cannot roll my R's, for example, which means, obviously I'm Welsh and Italian.
You cannot roll R's. Yeah, actually.
Which is quite bad for a Shakespearean actor, really. It can be quite limiting, which is what most of my work was when I left school. But also I'm Welsh and Italian, and I have real difficulties with Welsh and Italian languages because they're so heavily rhotic. They're so heavily R-based, and have like, an emphasis on R sounds that I genuinely struggle with them. It's like, that's why they're such good singing languages, because they've got such great R sounds. And they're very
like,
rhotic.
I'm sure you can roll an R. Like even
no, you can't.
Like not even like a like.
No,
you
I cannot do that.
Like
this is me. Do that again. Okay,
like
this is me trying to do what you just did.
See, that's plenty. That's fine. Sorry.
That is so cute. You just ignored the evidence of your own ears just so you could win an argument, and I love that. Everyone heard it, and you were just like, no, that's fine, mate. No, I'm hearing a beautiful rolled R right there. I win this one. Yeah, no, it's great. It's really good.
Okay, fine. You can.
Yeah, so I'm hopefully that you don't get really distracted by my weak R or my weak ass sound.
And
the thing is,
you don't need a strong R when you have your accent.
Yeah, well, I mean,
no,
you do,
right? Like you don't need to.
You're making me go. You've given it back to me. So far we've done 4 episodes of this podcast, and like 3 of them have just been us coughing like absolute mad people into the microphones.
Tally is not a tongue guy. I beg to differ.
So anyway, I'm hoping that you don't get any comments like that. I hope you only get really nice comments saying how actually, if anything, being ill makes you sound slightly sexier, and I'd say slightly sexier, off the charts, right? I hope that was a bit of a tangent. But
It was. I'm sure I'll be okay.
Yeah. So, Azeroth, the last Titan. Now, Azeroth has been referred to as the last Titan before in game. Rathian has referred to her as the last Titan.
Has he?
In Mists of Pandaria. No, not Mists of Pandaria, but at some point, I think. Well, he refers to a last Titan.
Okay.
Because, of course, we didn't know that Azeroth was a Titan back then. That didn't get kind of canonized until Chronicle, which came out just before Legion. And pretty much the last thing that Chris Metzen was involved in Warcraft before he kind of moved on. And Magni does refer to her as the final Titan, I think,
Okay.
with Illidan
Right.
in 7.3 in Legion as
Okay.
well. So there's not a precedent for this. Like, Azeroth has been referred to as something like the last Titan
last
before
Titan,
now.
final
So
Titan.
it's perfectly natural
A
to
Titan, right? She has been
Exactly, yeah.
called a Titan.
It's perfectly natural to think of Azeroth being the last Titan in question when it comes to the final installment of the World Soul Saga. And, you know, ever since Chronicle came out and clarified that, yes, Azeroth is a Titan, and, you know, the other Titans are protecting our world and our timeline because they want her to be born and take up her rightful place in the Pantheon and what have you. Ever since then, there's been this kind of, you know, realization that, well, okay, at some point, Azeroth needs to be born in
Right.
that case. And, you know, they refer to her being born. What exactly does that mean? And so a video that I've wanted to make for... well, ever since Chronicle came out, which is, I guess, 7 years ago, we finally got around to actually making it last week and putting it out. And this is how long this video has been in production, Evitel.
How long has it been in production?
We use animations in this video that we commissioned Evo to make in like 2019. These animations of like troll Azeroth kind of bursting out of, like, he created the model and he put the animations together, and then I kind of like added the world and like got her bursting out and stuff like that. But he created these and we commissioned and we paid him for them in 2019. And
then
thank
you're like,
goodness I didn't lose them with like most of the
No.
other footage that I lost from 2019.
Well, when we were talking about what videos we're going to come out with, we were like last month. It's like, so I think I'm just going to do the what happens when Azeroth is born video finally. And it's like,
yeah, what better time
have that?
I thought to
Yeah.
bring it out than in the aftermath of BlizzCon, and you know, suddenly it's a topic of conversation again, and the idea that I think it's not unreasonable to think that Azeroth might be born by the end of the expansion, right? You know, it's not unreasonable to imagine that the World Soul Saga will in some way kind of climax, as it were, with Azeroth being born. So it seemed like a good time to make this video and to talk about that. And you know, the video, when we conceived of it back in 2016 or 17, whenever it was, you know, it was kind of going to be like a list video.
Yeah.
Like, you know, what are the different ways that Azeroth could be born, and what would that look like for us? You know, what would that mean for us? So, you know, there's the obvious one, like her popping out of the world like an egg. That would obviously be pretty bad for us, right?
Right.
There's the whole, well, maybe she is the world and she's like basically like a transformer, and that's kind of how the Titans are discussed in Chronicle, honestly. That they you know, their bodies are living planets, which suggests that their body was literally the planet. And you know, one thing that is interesting that we didn't get to touch on in the video is actually, like, we don't ever hear much about the Titans' planets, right? If they all came from planets, what are those planets? Are they still around? Can we go visit them? It would be really nice to go and talk to some of the people who live on those planets if they're still around.
Yeah.
See what they think of the Titans.
Yeah.
Might be quite interesting. Or are those planets still living like as the body of the Titan in question? Would we need to fly on to the body of said Titan? And like, are there people still living on them? Who knows?
Yeah.
But I mean, all these things that could well happen in the last Titan could be really, really interesting. So and then there's they could just manifest maybe next to the planet, which I think is the kind of like the most likely one, but probably the least interesting one as well.
I think regardless of what happens, I think Azeroth has to be born, and then she has to take the sword. Like, she has to have
well, that's what you want.
you know
isn't
what I
it?
mean? Like,
Yeah.
he's got to be like, this is
Yeah.
the perfect size sword.
I mean, I kind of feel like if that doesn't happen, if Azeroth being born, you know, if the cinematic that shows her being born the end of that isn't literally her either, if it is her body, like reaching into her body and pulling out the sword, or if she manifests next to the planet, just pulling it out of the planet or whatever.
Love it.
If that's not how that ends,
I mean, it has
then
to
I'm not sure I can ever trust WoW again.
has
The
to be.
Metzen Effect will go down like a lead balloon. It'll be like, Metzen, you let us down, dude. Are you absolutely kidding me? Like, if she's like, oh, I'm back. Oh, well, see you guys. And it's like, your sword, dude, your sword.
And I mean, it makes perfect sense what with them hyping up the sword at like BlizzCon and the t-shirts, right?
Yeah,
They've just launched like this trilogy. They're not calling it a trilogy. They're calling it a saga, right? But just like getting that back into your consciousness for a reason, right? It's not just because it's a meme. It is a meme, obviously.
Yeah, I think it's mostly because it's a meme.
No. I think it's literally like it's a reason, and it's there for a reason, and I think that is the reason. It's just for like a really cool showpiece.
And we've all kind of thought that since day one, right? As well, especially when the sword was in there, and that was just such a great end to Legion or to that patch in Legion, and then with BFA being based around the after effects of that as well, there was very much a kind of an opinion back then. It's like, yeah, she's going to get born, she's going to take the sword out of her body or out of the planet, and that'll be her sword. And yeah, it has to happen, of course. And if that's not like a highlight of the World Soul Saga, then I don't even know what I'm doing in my life anymore, frankly. But then we moved on to kind of the kind of things we'd only have been able to discuss in Dragonflight and in the and knowing that the World Soul Saga was coming, and knowing that the final expansion in the World Soul Saga was called The Last Titan. So I'm really glad that we did hold off making this video, honestly, because like it's some super interesting ideas, I think, and some talk, not least of all the fact that the dragons in that really, really well received raid ending cinematic literally flat out come and say, like, and I know people disagree with this,
I
but
was gonna say,
in my opinion, they literally just say this is not Titan magic.
That's what it sounds like to me,
and
right?
In my opinion, they are just flat out saying Azeroth is not a Titan.
Yeah,
and it feels to me like the kind of thing that later on, when Azeroth isn't a Titan, everyone's going to be like, well, that came out of nowhere.
Like, well,
and it's like, well, only because you decided to not believe them when they said 2 expansions ago.
Yeah, exactly. And I like the bit kind of in the video where you go on to like, if she's not a Titan, what is she? But I like the idea of Azeroth being like a being that has yet to be like imprinted, that like maybe the Titans go around looking for these little world souls to just be like, like Titanize.
Can I just say thanks for watching the video?
Yeah,
I appreciate that.
Yeah, of course.
I really appreciate it.
Yeah,
I hope you liked and shared and subscribed.
I did my best. I subscribed. Yeah, I unsubscribed and I subscribed again just because I'm always.
Thanks. I appreciate that. Cheers.
So and I really like the idea, and that fits in really neatly with the dragons being like, oh, this isn't Titan. What is this? This is something. This is like hers. This is Azeroth's special like magic.
Yeah.
So knowing that the Titans are maybe something separate, maybe in conflict, but not necessarily, like maybe benevolent, but not really. Like we, already have hints that they have, they dabble. They like to dabble with things and like, living beings and humanity and the future and mind control. Like they do some dabbling, which is supposedly for the greater good. But, I mean, and I am never going to trust like a god force in like any
No, man. I got a natural distrust
media.
of authority and I dislike
Exactly. Like I have no... Like I instantly, like I see any Titan watchers and I'm like, I don't trust you. Why would I? You guys telling me how the world actually is? Of course it's not the way you're telling me, because that's just how it works, right?
Yeah. And yeah, exactly. And the theory that we kind of, I'm working with really, that I'm kind of discussing a lot now, is the idea that, world souls are world souls. They're not Titan world souls. They're not like void world souls. They're not light world souls. They're not life world souls. They're not like death world souls.
No, they're just.
But they could be. They could be any of those things. But they are just world souls, right? And maybe they would never become anything else and they would be born pure, and maybe their first one. I think she's probably a first one. I think she's probably going to turn out to be a first one.
Right.
But the idea
Cool.
that all of the world souls that have been born, you know, they were also first ones. But we know that, for example, the Titans, they turned the primal incarnates, before they were primal incarnates, they turned their eggs into Titan infused dragons, into members of the flights, without the permission of their parents.
Yeah.
Right, so they zapped the eggs with Titan magic and they turned them into, you know, aspects, members, not, you know, aspects, but like dragonflight dragons. They turned them into Titan dragons. Why wouldn't they do that with a world soul as well? It's just like on a bigger scale, right?
Yeah.
So this idea that it's, you know, they are going around looking for world souls so that more Titans can be born, but it's actually them zapping the world soul and infusing the world soul with arcane magic, or order magic, as Blizzard insist on calling it.
Order magic.
Arcane magic. And that's what turns the world soul into a Titan. And, you know, that applies to everything. The idea that the Void can come along and do the same, and then a Dark Titan is born or whatever. Or like, or a Void Lord. Maybe that's, you know, we've been told that they want to create a Void Titan because that's the Titan's understanding of what they're trying to do. But, you know, literally, maybe that's how Void Lords are created.
Maybe,
you know,
yeah.
maybe it's how, like, the most powerful Naru are created when the light do it. Maybe there already is a life magic world Titan that got born. You know, maybe the life realm did find a world soul that no one else had found and infused it, and maybe the life Titan was born. Maybe that's who Alun is, right? You know, like all these like
be.
brilliant kind of possibilities that this theory opens up, which I really, really like, because we know it's established in the Warcraft universe that when you infuse someone with a whole bunch of power from one of the cosmoses, they become of that cosmos. They can even switch cosmos. You know, the idea that the Eridar being the perfect example, they become demons, they become members of a different cosmos, and literally go to Twisting Nether when they die instead of the Shadowlands because they've been so infused with Fel. The same thing happened with Argus being infused with death magic, that he went to the Shadowlands instead when he should not have. He should have gone wherever, you know, I guess Titans go or whatever. And like, yeah, I think it's a really interesting idea. I think it's fascinating. I think I feel like it's probably where the story's going, but I won't be butthurt if it's not. Don't worry. I don't mind. I have no, like, I'm not fixing my personality to this theory or anything like that. If it's wrong, it's wrong. I don't mind. But at the moment, it seems like a really fun thing to think about. And Wowhead shared this video today, which is always nice to see. I love it when Wowhead share our videos. Thank you, Wowhead, doing us a solid and putting it out there. Well, partly because, of course, Discordian Kitty, who is a Wowhead writer, helped us out with the script. Is credited as co-writer on this script. And you know, helped us formulate like the structure of it, and like she always does, just come in and give us a really excellent kind of like co-writing job. So thank you for Discordian Kitty on that one.
Yeah, amazing. And I have to say the discussion that's kind of unfolding under that Wowhead article, rather, I am pleasantly surprised.
Well, this is actually why I wanted to talk about this on the podcast today, actually. It wouldn't have occurred to me to speak about this.
No, me neither. And you know,
channel.
and if I ever really look at the comments, it's like kind of like peeking through one eye. There's actually there's lots of really cool discussion happening there. Likewise, in the comment section of the actual YouTube video, where people are kind of presenting their own theories on this.
And so it's really good. Like, so the comments in the YouTube video are mostly from people who have watched the video, right? Which is excellent. Thank you. Really, really nice of you. And the comments in the Wowhead article, completely understandably, are mostly from people who haven't watched the video. And it is interesting to note the difference in comments that you get there. Again, completely understandably. And thank you for anyone who's commented on it at all.
Cheers, guys.
But particularly if you have watched the video, really appreciate that one. If you haven't, you should. It's a good video. I'm very proud of it. But yeah, so like a lot of it's funny, as you have just seen, the image that we've shown on the screen of the video and what we use for the thumbnail, is Evo's model that he created of our kind of possibility of what the world soul might look like.
Trollzeroth.
And she is Trollzeroth. She's a troll, but with like Azerite colored hair and bits of Azerite sticking out of her, looking really cool. She's a female troll.
That was like really sweet when
and
like,
you know, it was something that I really liked, and it's something that barely anyone mentions in the comments of the YouTube video at all, but it's all anyone talks about in the Wowhead comments.
Yeah, of course.
It's the thing that people have latched onto. It's like, why is she a troll? She wouldn't be a troll. That's ridiculous. Why is she a troll? Now, interestingly, we never mention in the video that we think she'd be a troll.
No, it's just one possibility.
Yeah. And you know, we use a lot of fan art in this video of, you know, various depictions of Azeroth.
And there's some really good troll Azeroth fan art.
But all of which, you know, obviously we credit on screen in the video when we show it, and we have a links to all that art, and it's community art, and you know, it's amazing to be able to link to that. But glad we did that with H Bomber Guy's plagiarism video coming out a few days after.
Oh, babe.
I'm glad I didn't have to feel bad about that. I'm glad I could sit there being all smug, like
cited your sources like an actual person.
Yeah, totally. So like if you want to find if you haven't noticed that in the comments, by the way, and you want to find any of the art that is in that video, because there are some absolute bangers. But you know, this video features many depictions of Azeroth, some of which are trolls, but most of which aren't. So, you know, we never mention what we think Azeroth is going to look like. This really famous by Frenone, the blue skin, just like sexy lady, basically, kind of like almost sort of innocent, naive looking kind of person, which is probably the most famous kind of fan art of Azeroth, I think. And obviously, like, you know, Battle for Azeroth had loads of these things coming out.
Of course.
This one, which is what inspired the troll idea, from Hypnos World, of a beautiful troll Azeroth, which is really great. But yeah, like I say, most of the images we use that depict Azeroth aren't troll-like at all, and we never say what we think she would look like. So the troll images are just in there amongst all the many other non-troll images, you know. And it's funny that obviously it's in the thumbnail, so I can understand that
people are just responding
to the
thumbnail.
If you haven't watched the video, you're just responding to the thumbnail. So you're like, why do you think she's going to be a troll? So, you know, we don't say in the video that we do think she'll be a troll, but there is a reason for having her as a troll. Like, a good reason for having her as a troll, in that the trolls are we think, the oldest kind of, you know, sentient life that naturally occurred on Azeroth, right? Yeah. It was the first life forms, you know, like, that properly evolved naturally on Azeroth, that weren't like elementals or, oh god, like spawn or like Titan constructs or something like that. So according to Chronicle, that is, right? So, you know, you think, well, why did the life forms evolve to look like that? Wouldn't it be nice if, you know, that's what Azeroth looks like? And, you know, for me, there's just a bit of fun in having her not be a sexy humanoid like lady.
Yeah, for once.
Right? Yeah, totally. But then you get the quite reasonable argument, which is like, well, all Titans do kind of look like humans, right? They do all look like kind of sexy stone, like planty human type people. And indeed, their constructs that then turned into humans do as well, right? Which is a really good point, except for the fact that, the entire point of the video is that maybe she's not a Titan, though. Yeah. So it's okay that she doesn't look like the other Titans, because the thing we're suggesting in the video is that
she's not.
She might not be.
Maybe not. Who knows?
Yeah. Maybe we're kind of pushing that point by having her not look like a Titan. It's okay. Yeah. Something that was really interesting was like, you know, an interesting point though that I do like was, it's like, you know, the trolls turned into night elves when they encountered the blood of Azeroth in the Well of Eternity, right? And the blood of Azeroth turned them into night elves. So if anything, that suggests that Azeroth looks like a night elf, and I do really like that. I really like that as an idea. I think that's really cool. But you know, got enough night elves, haven't we?
As a night elf player, no, never enough.
I don't think Azeroth will turn out to be a goblin, but you know, it's just I'm not saying she would look like it's a troll. I just, you know, I like the idea that she might. That's all. I think it's cute, and I like fan art that depicts her as a troll. But I'm not seriously suggesting that she would. But I do genuinely like it as an idea. And the idea that so the Titans, they all look kind of. I wouldn't even say they look like humans really, but they look kind of more human than a troll does. But then, you know, and then people say, well, Argus doesn't look like a Draenei. I'm like, he kind of does. He doesn't look,
sure.
he doesn't look unlike a Draenei.
Yeah, like
you know,
kind of.
to be fair, he's wearing a big spiky helmet. You can't see what his head looks like under there. Like he's big and muscly and like triangle shaped and blue. Like he looks a bit like a Draenei to me. Like he looks a little bit like an Eridar to me, dude. You know, so I don't buy that as an argument, but I think it's fun to kind of speculate what she might look like. And the idea is that if she's not a Titan by default, you know, why can't she look like anything? She doesn't have to look like the Titans. You know, if the Void properly got hold of her, they would turn her. She would look a whole lot more Void Lordy, right? And she wouldn't look troll then. If the Titans managed to continue their work on her and like properly turn her into a Titan, according to the theory, then yeah, she probably would come out looking a lot more Titany. But the idea is that she's not that, which is half the idea. And then there's that thing that, you know, the logo for the Last Titan is literally a Titan prison.
Oh, is it?
So yeah. So Last
I missed this
Titan logo. So here is I'm showing it on screen for everyone to see now. So open image in new tab. So this is just like a tiny kind of swirly thing. We all recognize this, right? But then you go Iridicron Titan Prison. Let's put that into Google and let's have a look at this. And you know, we've seen this in at the end of the first raid, and it's not just suggestive of the prison that Iridicron is kept in.
It's
like the runes
that.
are exactly the same. Even can you see the ridges along the side?
Yeah.
Are in the same place and stuff like that. It's the same thing. It's not suggestive. It is literally the prison that we saw Iridicron and the other Primal Incarnates in at the end of the raid. So, you know, the logo for the Last Titan is literally a Titan prison. And then you kind of think about Sylvanas, don't you, saying this world is a prison and what have you. And then you think, well, yeah, maybe the Titans are turning this first one world soul into a Titan against her will, you know, and keeping her in prison to do that, just like the Legion did with Argus. They kept him in prison so they could use him as a big fell battery, right? Maybe the Titans are doing something similar. Maybe you have to imprison the world souls so that you can kind of like, you know, so they're not born normally and you can do it your own way. And you know, maybe because of the sword and everything, maybe Azeroth has now become conscious of that, and she's now suddenly aware of what the Titans are doing to her, and like that's why she's calling to us, and that's why her magic is different, and that's why she's empowering people herself to like create a force that can fight against the Titans. And you know, so many incredibly interesting ways that this can go, and I love it. What do you think of all those bombshells that just landed on you?
No, and I'm devastated. I'm absolutely crushed and in awe, speechless. No, I think it's really cool. I think congrats to whoever dug up this Titan prison imagery here, because like that's so telling. That's just so evocative, right? And it makes me think that there's something is up. Azeroth is reaching out to us. We know she's she because Magni she's always referred to as she, always. I mean, is it Azeroth speaking to us? Is the voice Azeroth, or is the voice Zelatath? Is the voice
I don't go along with the whole it's a fake voice thing. Personally, I don't go along with the whole Zelatath is tricking us. Zelatath has never felt the need to trick us before. She's always been pretty straight up. Speaking as a shadow priest, you know, like she never ever tried to trick you. She was just like, she was always going to be like, I'm going to F you up. And then I'm going to F up this entire world. And like, bring me over here so I can F up this guy. Like, she's never been shy about her real intentions or anything like that. So I don't think she's really a kind of a tricksy kind of person. She's just like,
no, she's just
going to destroy you. And I'm going to destroy you by doing something you haven't worked out yet. But I don't need to trick you.
Yeah.
You haven't worked out my plans. Like.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. I think and the way the characters talk about like, oh, like, you know, I felt something. It was her, you know, like, you know, like that feels genuine, right?
Yeah. So I don't feel like Xal'atath would pretend to be someone else.
No.
I think she loves being herself too much.
Oh, she loves
She doesn't
herself.
need to do that. Like, can you imagine Shara pretending to be someone else?
No, exactly. I hope she comes back. I miss her.
I think that's almost certain.
I miss her so much.
You know, they're not the kind of people that would don a disguise. They do the James Bond thing, you know, like other spies, you know, maybe disguise, like, you know, Tom Cruise in Mission Impossible, he disguises himself. He puts on a mask. He becomes someone else. Like James Bond walks into to the casino where the baddie is, and the baddie's like, "What's your name?" And he's James Bond. And the baddie goes, "Oh, I've heard of you. You work for MI6."
Yeah.
And James Bond's like, "Oh, cover blown." Yeah, it's true. I do. You're right. And that's like how every James Bond movie goes. And Xal'atath is definitely more on the James Bond end of the spectrum.
Yeah, absolutely.
In terms of like,
she's pretty
no,
you're
having
right.
nothing to hide.
You're right. She's pretty transparent. She wouldn't bother with trying to trick like humans. Like she would, or citizens of Azeroth. Like she would, yeah.
Yeah,
I think you're right about that.
But anyway, so there's that. So that's I just wanted to touch on that and talk about the ideas in the video and some of the responses. And I just found it really funny how all the talk in the Wowhead comments like zeroed in on the fact that she was you
say all the talk. There are a few kind of threads on that, but other than that, there are actually some really good discussions about just kind of the content of the video and whether she's a Titan, what the video. Yeah. There's a lot going on there. So and
it's one of the reasons I love making videos like this as well, is because I love going to the YouTube comments of those videos and you know, it's harder now than it was in the very early days, but reading through the comments and kind of getting all the ideas that people have, and we might not be able to respond to everything, but just seeing people talking about the ideas and having their own ideas, and it's so great. It's like easy my favorite type of video to make.
Love it.
So thank you if you have contributed to that conversation on the comments of that video. If you haven't, maybe give it a go. Before we bring the podcast to a close, I just want to have a look at we did have a couple of super chats today. So I do love calling them super chats.
Super chats.
Yeah. Thank you for allowing me to say the word super chats, everyone. Much appreciated. Just Rico saying hi at the beginning of the stream. Always good to see you, Rico. Thank you.
Cheers, Rico.
And then Dragnossi says, how are you both experiencing demand for WoW content at this point? Has the summer drop finally turned around? How do you think the next few months will look? Dragnossi, P.S. Happy Christmas to you. Merry Christmas to you too. Thank you. Christmas can be amazing. I'm so looking forward to it.
Oh, can't wait.
We just we've asked Anirin, our son, what he wants for Christmas, and he just said a race car.
A blue race car.
A blue race car. And we're trying to work out exactly what that means. Like, does he want one that he can ride? Does he want one that he can play with? Does he want a remote control one?
Yeah, it could be anything, but it's something very specific, and it's our job to find out what
exactly
he
in
knows.
his head.
He knows exactly what he wants, and now we have to like dig out what he truly means.
Yeah. In terms of like WoW content and demand for WoW content, I don't know, man. I like you know, with the combination of all the great stuff that's happening in Classic and the announcement of the World Soul Saga and stuff, I think, like we said in this stream, really, there is a really good vibe around WoW at the moment. And ironically, that's not always great for content creation. So, you know, like, you know, it's much easier to tap into like an audience when people are angry about stuff. But you know, I'm happy with it not being like that. I'd much rather people are excited about the game and like excited about the future and stuff. And you know, from I don't know about views or anything like that because I can't speak for any other YouTubers either. But from a creation point of view, it is much easier to have videos that I want to make.
Absolutely,
and you know, I've always got like a backlog of videos that I want to make, but that backlog has become even more kind of urgent recently with things that I really want to talk about and videos that I really want to make, and you know, all the kind of lead up to a new expansion is always great. But when you've got this whole overarching narrative, it's one of the reasons making videos in BFA was so good, because not only were people generally pretty angry, but even more importantly, there was always story beats to discuss. You know, there was always like there's a lot of story and story presentation in that expansion, which is just so good for YouTubers like us to talk about. And I'm really looking forward to a story focused kind of trilogy, because I think that's something that we're good at talking about. It's something we really enjoy talking about, and it's something we enjoy hearing from viewers and stuff about as well, and hearing from the community about. So yeah, like very relishing the idea of all the cool stuff we're going to have to talk about in the lead up to the War Within, and the story stuff that's apparently going to be happening in Dragonflight as well. I was talking about potential content drought earlier, but you know, the team seem pretty confident that there'll be stuff filling it, not a raid, but you know, story patches and things like that. And I think Dragonflight's approach to story patches, helped by the fact that we've had more patches, has been really good. I've really enjoyed it. What do you think, Abby?
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's like it's just going so well at the minute. It's brilliant.
Yeah, and you know, after BlizzCon, there's always that as well anyway, because it takes so long to get through all the ideas that you have during BlizzCon from the announcements and stuff like that, and to make all those, especially for us, man.
Oh, yeah.
If we were a different creator, maybe we could get all those videos out in a couple of weeks, but we spend a little bit longer on it, unfortunately. So
yeah, I mean, another thing on kind of the content creation side of things, like all of this is great news for us, which means because there are people talking about the story of WoW and stuff that we like. That's really good. But at the same time, there's also such a huge amount of like content and just playable stuff. So like I found myself even watching more just like straight up like how to do X, how to like Nagura put out a video like in the first week and was like, this is literally what you need to do in week 1. And I was like, tell me.
We used to make those
lady.
videos, man.
We did. But there's a huge appetite for those. Yeah. Like one, because you have all these returning players who need to like wrap their heads around the catalysts and stuff. Like you just, you know, and also you just like, there's so much stuff that you just something like I found myself watching that more. Whereas before I would be like, no, not at all. I'm fine. I got this. Like now I'm like, yes, tell me what to do. There are a bunch of like little short guides, actually on Instagram. And I think that like Laced has done that are just these like super quick
Laced guides on Instagram are great.
Yeah, who are just like, here's this toy, here's how to get it. Here are the coordinates. Here's like a neat little like 1 minute like explainer on how to get what you want. And again, like that, you know, I think it's brilliant that content is thriving as well, because there's just so much stuff to see and do.
Short answer, it feels great to be talking about WoW right now. Absolutely. It's really exciting to be making content for it. Thank you for asking. And Lawcrafty, first ones tried combining their 6 cosmic powers into something greater than the sum of their parts. Azeroth may be like us mortals, able to wield all powers, but belonging to none unless corrupted. Order got Arm and Thule. Yeah, pretty much that's what I think. I feel like, you know, in Firim's diary in Shadowlands, you know, there's talk of the 6 and then the other. And then, right, like the one outside of the 6. So, like the 6 is presumably the cosmoses, and then the one outside would appear to be us. It would appear to be reality. You know, it's like one of the things that I've always wondered about with the Titans is, you know, they are of the arcane realm or the order realm, right? So why are they in our universe? Why are they born in our reality? Because our reality is separate from the arcane cosmos, right? You know, like the void is a literal plane of existence. Like the twisting nether and the fell is a plane of existence. The death realm is a plane of existence. Like so is the Titan realm, right? So why are they here? Why are they born here? And it's that thing of like, well, they are. Now I'm thinking they're kind of like the equivalent of old gods. Like old gods don't really exist in the void realm. They're created specifically to come into our reality and leave the void, and find world souls to corrupt, or you know, corrupt. We call it corrupting, but for them it's just they're just making, right? It's like and so yeah, maybe the Titans are that, and maybe they're equivalents for all of the gods. Maybe that's what a Naru is, right? And so they're equivalents of all of that everywhere. And I wonder, in that case, what do the actual residents of the arcane realm actually look like? Because, you know, the Void Lords don't actually look like old gods. Like the old gods are the fleshy things that they chuck into our reality, but void gods and void lords are something very distinct. They don't look like that at all. So that, you know, you go to the void and that's what people in the void look like, is that they don't look like old gods. And likewise, I guess if you go to the order realm, if you go to the arcane realm, it's reasonable to assume that actually people don't look like Titans there. They look like something else. And I wonder what that is, right? And likewise, any other realm you can think of.
Yeah.
So, and then there's that thing of like, well, you know, the Shadowlands is shown as being on the Cosmos chart kind of separate from the Death Realm and actually a part of our reality in the same way that the Emerald Dream is. Like the mirror of the Shadowlands is not whatever the mirror of the Death Realm is on the Cosmos chart. It's the Emerald Dream. Like the Shadowlands is kind of a part of our reality as well, in a way that the Death Realm isn't, because the Death Realm is its own thing, which makes me think that we've got the wrong impression about what the Shadowlands even is still, which I don't think the expansion Shadowlands really helped at all. But you know, I think there's something you can play with there, and not, you know, retcon out Shadowlands, but kind of clarify the Shadowlands and what happened in the Shadowlands kind of out of importance a little bit. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I think there's
what you're
definitely potential to do that on the Cosmos chart that existed before, right? So I think you can do it. But yeah, I definitely think when Firim refers to the sixth and then the seventh on the outside, he's talking about reality, our reality, and I feel like, you know, the world souls and the first ones would probably be something to do with that. Really interesting to think about and to
food for thought.
Yeah, totally. But super interesting to talk about. Wow, and we didn't think we'd have much to talk about this episode.
No, exactly.
I think it's our longest episode ever. That's really cool.
No way.
Yeah. Awesome. So guys, thank you so much for joining us today for our podcast. There'll be another episode next week. Please check out our YouTube channel, both our main channel, Taliesin Evitel, and our second channel, Taliesin Evitel's second channel, which is mostly us talking on stream and doing things like that. We finished the Baldur's Gate 3 epilogues on stream this week.
We did.
What did you think of that?
Oh, don't get me started. I loved it.
It was emotional.
It was emotional. I loved it.
Did you find closure though?
Eve and Gail are now married canonically. They live in
you are Mrs.
Mrs. Decarios.
Decarios.
Yeah, love it. My Gail turned out went the good way in the end.
Yeah.
Loved it. It was so good just seeing everybody and like just now I have like loads, speaking of YouTube, I have loads of epilogues that I will now watch from other scenarios and stuff. I really look forward to that.
We had a fun time on stream this week.
Did.
But you can also follow us on Twitter. You can follow us on
Twitch
and Instagram as well, which I imagine it's probably been about 20 posts since last episode on Instagram. Right? Yeah, working hard. It's really good. So join us there. But thank you to everyone who joined us for the podcast today. We will see you next time from me, Taliesin.
And me, Evitel.
Until next time, cheerio.
Bye.
Go eat, Evitel.